What's going on, Brownie Bros? Welcome to the xTransceiver podcast, a podcast about news, lore, battle strategy, and more. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the latest news on Pokemon Sword and Shield. A lot of news has been dropped in the last couple of weeks, including the reveal of a new Galarian form, Galarian Ponyta, on a 24-hour stream. Before we get into the Sword and Shield news, however, I want to touch on some other news that you may have missed. For those of you who are still playing Pokemon Go, I am included. I'm actually having a lot of fun. Or if you're interested in getting back into it, there are a lot of cool things going on at the moment. If it's still Thursday when you're listening to this episode is going live on Thursday, you still have a chance to get double Stardust. So definitely take advantage of that event. And then this Saturday is the Trapinch Community Day. Flygon's special move for the Trapinch Community Day will be Earth Power. And there's also going to be an increased chance that you get a shiny Trapinch. So that is really awesome. I'm excited. I'm in Toledo at the Toledo Botanical Gardens. A bunch of people come out for Community Day and for raids, and it's just a really good community that, I've been out of Pokemon Go for a really long time until recently. And, I've sort of gotten back into it, and going to the raids and the community days has been a lot of fun. So if you still have the game, it doesn't hurt to, open it on community day, hit a couple of Trapinches, and see if you can get a shiny. Some more Pokemon Go news. A couple of weeks ago, some of the Pokestop spawns, or some of the Pokestops had been deleted, presumably due to a lawsuit against Pokemon Go. Also, spawns have been decreased in private areas to discourage people from, going into people's houses or yards or property and trying to catch Pokemon. In other mobile game news, Pokemon Masters has been, not as popular or as fun as I anticipated it to be. I recorded one episode for Pokemon Masters on this channel the day it dropped, and I didn't really have that much fun, so I stopped playing it. That was the only time I played it. And apparently other people have had similar experiences. Even those who were committed to the game have stopped or have had complaints. So DNA, the producers of the game, released a letter. That letter can be found on their Twitter page. You can also go to Cerebi if you want to find the letter. But basically, they said they're working on improving the game. They understand our frustrations, or the frustration of those players, and going forward, it should be better. So that is good news. Maybe I'll get back into that as well. Let me know if you guys are playing Pokemon Masters and what you guys have thought of your experience thus far. Also, we have had the announcement of the next anime. The Galar anime has been it's been sort of teased, but it's all but official. We've gotten official artwork, and Ash is confirmed to be in the series, despite, spoiler alert, him winning the Alola League. Many people thought that there might be a reboot with a new protagonist, but that is not the case. Pikachu and Ash will be returning to the Galar region. That's it for the news outside of Pokemon Sword and Shield that I wanted to share with you guys today. As I said on the last podcast, this podcast will be coming out pretty much every single Thursday. I skipped last Thursday because I wanted to wait for the 24-hour live stream to end. I figured there would be more. Also, there was a trailer for the Galar anime, the Galar region anime. I just realized that. But yeah, today I'm going solo. It's just going to be me. We're working on some great guests to come on the show pretty soon. But I wanted to get a podcast out and, and talk about some of the stuff with Sword and Shield. And as we lead up to Sword and Shield, we are less than 2 months away. Every single week, we'll be talking about something Sword and Shield related. I might be doing a top 5 or top 10 Galar forms that I want to see, or items, stuff like that. So if you guys have suggestions or ideas or things you want to hear, let me know, because not a lot has been revealed, which I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about when we're talking about Sword and Shield. Not a lot has been revealed, so it's exciting. There's a lot of stuff we can theorize about at this time when. In the Sun and Moon cycle, in the ramp up to that, a lot had been revealed, which, I understand some people like that, and that's okay. Joey and I talked about it on the last podcast, where he likes to have all that information, and he wants to know everything before the game comes out. I'm a little bit on the other end, where I like to be surprised, and I like less information. So I'm excited about the way that this game has been not overexposed. That being said, I think Sun and Moon was marketed a little better. I feel like the hype was way more real for Sun and Moon. All right, let's just get into it. We're already talking about Sword and Shield yesterday. If you did miss it, last Friday there was a 24-hour live stream of a forest in the Galar region. It was, I tuned in at various times, but I honestly, each time there was nothing there, so I didn't spend too much time watching it. The forest is called the Glimwood Tangle Forest. A lot of Pokemon showed up. Impidip showed up again, a Pokemon that we had seen before, and it had actually been in a couple of demos, but has not been officially confirmed. I saw a theory out there that this could be the pre-evolution for a pseudo-legendary, which is why it's only been teased and not been confirmed on it's been confirmed, but there hasn't been any more info about its type or any lore on the Pokemon website. The biggest reveal, however, from this 24-hour live stream was the reveal of Galarian Ponyta. So throughout the 24-hour live stream, Ponyta was sort of, again, teased. I'm using that word a lot, but you saw it galloping on the right side. You could hear the Ponyta cry. You saw its mane or its tail glowing up. One time, there was some blurry images, it running really fast across the stream. And finally, towards the end of the 24 hours, we saw it much more clearly. And then this week, they released an official trailer for Galarian Ponyta, along with its ability and its type. So when people first saw it, they thought immediately it would be Fairy type. It is pure Psychic type. We don't know what Rapidash, or even if Rapidash could evolve, what the typing of that Pokemon will be. It could gain Fairy type, maybe it won't. But that I think had a lot of people upset. Initially, I was disappointed because I really did want it to be a Fairy type, because Fairy type is just an all-around better typing in my opinion. But I'm still excited about this Pokemon. I'm going to be getting Shield. By the way, it's a Shield exclusive Pokemon. Sirfetch'd is a Sword exclusive. This Pokemon is a Shield exclusive Pokemon. I'm going to be getting Shield before I get Sword, so I'll probably be using this on my team, but we'll see. It has a really cool ability called Pastel Veil. I'm going to read you the excerpt from the Pokemon website. Galarian Ponyta's ability, Pastel Veil, is a new ability introduced in these titles. The ability prevents the Pokemon and its allies from becoming poisoned. It can even cure the poison status condition of its allies when this Pokemon enters the battlefield. So, my understanding is in double battles, when it switches in, it'll heal whatever Pokemon is on your side, whatever's on the field's poisoning, but maybe that extends to your entire team. If that's the case, that's a pretty good ability in singles as well as doubles. It's a really nice ability for, a non-steel type or a non-poison type to not be able to be poisoned. We've seen Gligar has immunity. It's cool to have another one of those Pokemon where you don't have to necessarily use or invest in a move like Heal Bell or Aromatherapy in order to heal yourself from the poison. Reading the lore about this Pokemon, it kind of makes sense that it's immune to poison types. The excerpt here says, it is said that Galarian Ponyta, were exposed to the overflowing life energy of the forest over many generations, and this is why their appearance became unique in its region. So basically they purify poison. At least that's my understanding of it. Going back to the 24-hour stream, a little bit disappointing. The live camera was such a great idea, and if executed properly, I think could have been awesome. But understandably, people were upset because, you don't want to be watching the thing for an hour and just see a Morlo pass by. Or you don't want to tune in for 15 minutes and see nothing. And, if it was more lively, if there was more Pokemon coming around, and I know maybe that's not as realistic, quote unquote. I mean, it's Pokemon, so why do you need to be realistic? But I know it's not necessarily as realistic as maybe they wanted it to be, like a live camera in the forest, but I think it should have been more engaging. They could have maybe revealed Rapidash without totally revealing it like they did with Ponyta. Maybe they could have had it, gallop by in the background again. I just think they could have done more. Maybe they could have announced another Sword exclusive. I understand that, with Sirfetch'd being a Sword exclusive, they wanted to announce another Shield exclusive. But still, I just think they could have done more with that. That being said, I do think it's a great idea, and something they can use going forward, and probably something they learned from. I just was kind of, I don't know what I was expecting. I was just expecting more, especially all the times I tuned in. There was nothing there, so I was just obviously following what was going on Twitter. Joel Merrick, the creator of Cerebi, he was basically live tweeting the stream, and I feel so bad for him because he watched the entire 24-hour stream just for the reveal of one Pokemon towards the very end of the entire ordeal. So moving past Galarian Ponyta, let me know, by the way, what you guys think of Galarian Ponyta. Do you like its design? I personally love its design. I think it looks great. Are you happy or sad that it's not a fairy type and that it's a psychic type? I think what they're trying to do is go away from this, like cotton candy type appearance from being automatically a fairy type. And, I sort of get it, especially with Galarian Weezing being that fairy type. It kind of makes sense that that's what they're trying to do. So I'm okay with it in that regard. And I'm holding out hope that it gains the fairy type when it evolves into Rapidash and beyond. Ongoing, really, Game Informer has had a lot of exclusive content regarding Pokemon Sword and Shield. I will link the website in the description so you can go check out all the news and the articles in depth. But there's just been so much news dumped on that website. I don't want to say dumped. Actually, that's probably not the right word, but they have been doing such a good job of day by day revealing more information and more, interesting things about each Pokemon. Recently, they went into depth about the three starters, Scorbunny, Grookey, and Sobble, and talking about their personalities and how they wanted each Pokemon to be distinct from each other. They wanted distinct personalities. Sobble apparently was created later after Scorbunny and Grookey, and they wanted each Pokemon to have an individual personality, which I'm all for. You want them to be different, and they also went out of their way to say that that Grookey would be different from other monkey Pokemon, that it would be unique. And they also mentioned that it'll become clear as we see their evolutions how these mods sort of intertwine with the region. And that presumably means how they reflect aspects of British culture. So also something that I forgot to mention about Galarian Ponyta is that a unicorn actually is a symbol of Scotland and is supposed to be sort of the anti-lion, which is the symbol of England. Scotland obviously they're both England and Scotland are both part of the UK, the United Kingdom. But Scotland in the past and even recently they had an independence vote, a referendum. That's always something they've been struggling with. So I wish I had it in front of me. But a long time ago, they sort of co-opted the unicorn as sort of the antithesis to the English. So that's cool. Maybe there's something there. Maybe that's something that they'll do. Maybe there'll be a lion Pokemon that's Sword exclusive. That's Galarian Growlithe. It's not really a lion. Galarian, Pyroar. There was also some news going around that there would be 18 gyms. There are not going to be 18 gyms in each individual game. So that was a misunderstanding or a mistranslation. There are 18 different types of gyms in the story, so they all exist in Galar, but that doesn't mean that you have to battle or you will battle each all 18 gyms. You do still collect 8 gym badges to go into the Galarian League Championship. So yeah, I mean, I want to be really conscious. So for me personally, I haven't even looked at the leaks really for this game. Doing this podcast on the channel, I really want to make the effort to only talk about or to only report on official releases from Pokemon. That doesn't have to be directly from Pokemon. Something like Game Informer, I mean, is reliable. Obviously, they were at Game Freak, and you know, they do their due diligence, and they're interviewing the people that are actually creating the game. Just because I don't want that misinformation to come from here, especially, you know, with the 18 gym thing, and even Galarian and Ponyta, a lot of people were saying it was fairy type. They were saying it as fact. So to me, it's important, especially if someone comes across the channel and they don't want things leaked to them or spoiled to them beyond what's already out there. You know, I want to be conscious of that too. So yeah, I mean, that's just how it's going to be leading up to the game, and how I think it should be, honestly. So another thing that was mentioned was that the experience share is no longer an item. It's just sort of already, you know, it's a default mechanic in the game. We're still unsure we're still unsure what exactly that means. Does that mean you can turn it off or not? You know, that's something that we'll find out in time. They also announced that there will be no HMs in this game again. They've got rid of HMs in Pokemon Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon with the Pokemon Ride program. So great that HMs are gone. It gives you a you know, you don't have to have an HM slave on the team anymore, like you've had to in past games. And I hope they're getting, excuse me, that was my mouse going crazy over there. I hope they sort of come up with more creative ways to bar your progress. You know, because in Sun and Moon it was like, oh, well, here's a physical barrier, you can't get past it. Here's a Tauros, it's scary, don't go past it. So I'm hoping there's something different in this game that, you know, because HMs were a really good way of naturally barring your progress, or going too far in the game before you were ready. Something else that was mentioned, I'm just going to keep on going here. Autosave will be in Pokemon Sword and Shield, something that has not been in the Pokemon games before. You know, we've always had only one save file with the Switch. That's not possible. And then, you know, max raid battles are going to be in Pokemon Sword and Shield. And actually, we found out that Dynamax is actually a projection. The Pokemon aren't actually getting that big. So I'm assuming those red lights are the actual projection. So when a Pokemon stands on them, they gain their power, and that's somehow projected. And the stadiums are built over that. That's at least what I think. So max raid battles are obviously going to be introduced into the Pokemon games, into the Pokemon main series games. You know, they saw how successful they were in Pokemon Go. It's a cooperative experience. You can play with your friends, or you can do it offline in Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'm honestly all for it. It's cool that you can run into these really powerful Pokemon in the wild area, and you can work with your friends to try to catch them. There will be a rating system for each Pokemon, similar to Pokemon Go. You have the 2 to 5 star, or 1 to 5 star difficulty levels. So, you know, if you're a beginner, you'll know that you don't want to get into a 4-star raid battle. Shigeru Ohmori said that these are some of the hardest battles in the game, and that he's actually failed in them. So, you know, if you're nuzlocking, it might be interesting to see, you know, if that's something that you want to do. We don't even know if we're forced into a raid battle. You know, the final, I'm just thinking of this now, the final legendary is honestly probably going to be a max raid battle. You're obviously going to have to fight Dynamax and Gigantamax Pokemon throughout the series, so I think it's going to be pretty difficult. I think it's going to be a difficult game. You know, they said about the battle, I think it's going to have, this is directly from Game Freak, I think it's going to have a kind of difficulty we haven't seen in a lot of main series Pokemon games up until now. but there is a widespread difficulties even in the max rate battle. So that's alluding to the fact that there are different levels of the battle. But, something truly challenging in the main series games is something that Pokemon fans have been clamoring for an extremely long time. And that was Kazumasa Iwao, by the way, with that quote. Also, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the Japanese names. I really do apologize that I cannot pronounce those better. Significantly, with the whole bring back the National Dex, I don't want to say fiasco, but movement, they did say that Pokemon will be returning in the future. And they basically, admitted that, even though this is the most people that have ever been working on a game, to really get the gameplay where they wanted it to be, or to be the best it could be, they had to cut some Pokemon. And, they basically also confirmed that because, the sprites and the models took so much time, that's the reason why the Gen 6 game, Pokemon X and Y, was so bare, and why they couldn't go further in Sun and Moon. So, but they did say that they will return in future games, the Pokemon that weren't there. And, obviously with Pokemon Home, you can store them all in there and bring them into the next game. So that's encouraging. For me, I was obviously disappointed that some Pokemon won't be making the jump. I do think it's a great chance to sort of rebalance the competitive game, especially the VGC meta, and to take away some Pokemon that you're seeing all the time, while also buffing other Pokemon as well. I'm interested to see what legendaries make it. Like Landorus, is he going to be there, or some other Pokemon? Obviously, it's going to suck if some of our favorite Pokemon aren't there, but I'm coming around to it. I'm really coming around to it. And then probably the most significant thing that came out of this Game Informer piece is the fact that they're going to be making competitive battling the most accessible it has ever been. So Iwao also said in this separate article that the Game Informer post, that traditionally in the series you start with your starter Pokemon and then you catch a lot of Pokemon in the beginning, and those are with you throughout your whole adventure, and the player gets attached to them. But a lot of times they get into competitive battles and they find they can't actually use those Pokemon, or they're not competitive. So they have to go out and find the exact right Pokemon or breed them in certain ways to make sure they're viable in competitive battle. And basically they go on to say that there are going to be ways that you can retrain your Pokemon. And, they sort of say that you can change their nature. I mean, so does that mean you can change their IVs and their EVs easily? I hope so. That Joey and I, again, talked about it on the last episode of the xTransceiver, about how competitive play has been so inaccessible and has taken so much time for people to really get involved. And it seems like they're making a conscious effort to get as many people involved and together as possible. And I think that stems from the success that Pokemon Go has had with the community days and their raids. And they're really thinking of ways to improve that experience. For me personally, I really wanted to get into VGC and Sun and Moon. I had half a team created, and I just, school and work and everything got in the way. And I didn't want to spend 16, 20 hours or however long it takes to breed the right Pokemon. It just wasn't something I wanted to do, especially when Showdown was right there. But obviously, you can't compete officially on Showdown. And it's just sort of a different feel, when you're playing in game versus when you're playing on Showdown. So to be able to have your starter or whatever Pokemon you fall in love with become, competitively viable, that's a no-brainer for me, and I'm glad they're doing it. And, they do say that breeding is still something that you can do, and, I'm hoping, and I think that they're going to improve breeding in some way. So we'll see what that's like, and I'm hoping we gain some more information about about changing the competitive viability of each of your Pokemon. Alright, I think I'm going to wrap up this episode of the xTransceiver podcast. If you did enjoy, make sure you subscribe. Like this on YouTube. The podcast will be on iTunes, or Apple Podcasts rather, and anywhere else you can get a podcast relatively soon. Next week we'll have a meteor episode of the xTransceiver podcast. But I wanted to get one out this week, because especially since we missed last week. Talk about my thoughts on Galarian Ponyta. Let me know what you guys think of the news that we've gotten from Sword and Shield so far. There's a lot of information on Game Informer. I will link that in the description, like I said earlier, so you guys can go read and watch all the content for yourself. I haven't even watched everything yet. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. You guys can always comment questions, or just, however you're feeling about Sword and Shield. You can follow me on Twitter at BigTimeBrownie. And, at me or DM me there, if you want to ask something or give your 2 cents. All right, as I said, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you did miss the last episode, make sure you do go check it out. We had Joey or PokeAim on. I know I mentioned it a couple times in this episode, but that was a great interview. I had a great time with him. I'm so thankful for him to coming on. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Remember, one video from Big Time keeps your life sublime. So until next time, bye.